You've probably seen them on the street, holding a clipboard, greeting each and every pedestrian as they pass with a bright big banner waving the logo of the cause they're raising money for in the background. You might find it endearing to see such young, motivated people working for such a good cause. Or you might find them incredibly annoying as they stand in areas with high levels of foot traffic and give each and every person they approach the same dead smile. Face-to-face fundraisers, they call themselves, likely to distance themselves from the name the public has decided to give them instead. Chuggers, a portmanteau of charity and muggers. Mainly because of how aggressively they try to guilt trip you into signing up. And it's important to differentiate right off the bat between the type of fundraisers that belong to the aid organization they're collecting for and the type who have nothing to do with the organization itself. They're third-party companies that take on contracts from aid organizations in order to collect money for them. This video's critique is directed entirely at the latter of the two. Whilst year after year, these companies take in incredible amounts of money for these aid organizations, the question is whether or not the manipulation they use to achieve this is worth it. From the outside looking in, these jobs can seem incredibly attractive. You have a decent wage, your hours are pretty flexible, and the amount of experience or education required to do this job is virtually none. Employees at some of these companies work on commission, but not the type of commission you might be used to from sales. These people work on point systems, and each day they have a certain point quota that they have to fulfill. Each person you sign up for the charity gives a different number of points, not only based on their donation amount and frequency, but also the person themselves. Elderly individuals who you manage to sign up give more points than younger people, because older people are much less likely to cancel their overtime payments than somebody who is in their 20s. And this score system isn't a joke either. It's a lot of pressure for these employees. If you don't hit your quota 2-3 days in a row, you could be looking at a termination of your job, no matter how many years you've been working for this company. As a result, companies like this often have an incredibly high turnover rate when it comes to employees. The incredible amount of pressure does lead to burning out more employees, but in the long run, it pays out for these companies, as they're able to collect a decent amount of money from each new employee before they burn them out. This pressure given by this type of point system is the reason why these individuals will approach you so aggressively. Their own personal paycheck is directly tied to how many people they can sign up today and what type of people they can sign up today. They don't just want your money, by the way. You can walk up to these guys with $600 in crisp bills and they're not allowed to accept it. Why? Because they need your bank details. And while there is validity to the claim that aid organizations benefit much more from monthly payments over time than they do from single installments of large sums of money, it seems so ridiculous turning down so many people who are genuinely willing to help, who are literally giving you money for the organization you asked for. But no, bank details, that's what they want. Nothing is stopping you from learning all of this from a much more trustworthy source. The interest is in bringing it right up into your face and saying, you can't ignore this, you can't walk away, you can't click away, it's right here, it's tied to some sort of social interaction, and if you walk away right now, you're a terrible, terrible person. There are certain organizations where when you approach them, you'll actually be talking to someone from the organization that they're representing. A lot of them even went, halfway across the world and volunteered in another country or volunteered within their own country, whatever it is, in order to actively help this organization and become more than just a salesperson for someone else's scheme. These people breathe the life into this type of fundraising that is necessary for it to be anything more than just another cheap ploy at getting your money. You can talk to these people about their personal experiences, about the reasons why they were so motivated to work for this organization in the first place. They often have a much better understanding of what they're actually representing than any of these people who are just there on a contract. And half the time, they're volunteers. They're not even getting paid. no increased number of signups is going to result in them getting a higher paycheck. Their motivation is somewhat pure, somewhat genuine. Even within these companies, different organizations with different contracts have varying levels of input into the campaigns that these agencies are peddling on the street. Some of these organizations do everything themselves. They even set up like a VR experience, and all you have to do is put on the VR glasses and now you're in Angola and you're experiencing how difficult it is for the people there, or something like that. The people who are running the stand really don't have to do all that much, just keep the VR headset from being stolen and tell people what they can do to support the organization. But in other cases, you literally just get a manila envelope as if it were some kind of secret assignment, and you read through it a couple of times, and now you have all the information you need to beg people for their bank details. And on top of that, at least in my experience, you might not even be able to choose which organization you represent. These types of agencies take on 10, 12, 15, 20 contracts at the same time from various aid organizations and spread them all throughout the country. So if you want to represent something that you actually care about, you have to go to the organization directly, because these agencies will just give you the contract that is most suited to your character. If it's the type of contract where they need a lot of engagement, they need someone to talk it up a lot, they need someone to really do a sales pitch, then you might get assigned that contract just because you are good at talking, and not because you believe in the organization or you agree with the way that they spend the money that people collect. And some people will always harp on the fact that these companies collect money for organizations that really need the money. I mean, this is exactly why these companies exist and how they manage to pitch their idea to everybody. Well, it's all for the greater good. Look at the numbers. Look at how much money these types of contract organizations are bringing in for these charities. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous, and there's no arguing that. The amount of money that they collect is a lot. But the reason why it's a lot is because it's very manipulative. And because the people running these companies, unlike the people running the non-profit organizations that they're representing, are profitable. They take a cut from the money collected. And there are plenty of organizations who do this correctly, who manage to take what is usually an awkward, strange, unwanted sales pitch and turn it into an actual moment of introspection, a break from your daily life in order to think about the greater problems the world is facing, even if it doesn't directly impact you. I'm sure everyone's experience is different, but I distinctly remember at least once a day someone would come up to me and start talking not about the organization I was representing for the day, not about donating or how to donate, but instead about the job that I was working. They would come up to me and they would ask me when I started, how long I'd been working there. They'd tell me their horror stories of working on the job and basically beg me to quit as soon as possible. They all said the same thing: get out, quit while you still can, while you still feel bad about what you're doing. Yeah, because over time it's just gonna get harder. You're gonna get better at the job. You're gonna be more comfortable approaching people, stopping them, asking them, what they think about this or that, or this organization, or what this practice is doing, and how they support organizations in the past. Whatever, you're gonna get better at that part, but you're gonna give up your, soul, for lack of a better word. If you really want to work for an aid organization, go to them directly. Volunteer, obviously, if that's something that you can do. But I think face-to-face fundraisers, or chuggers, if that's what you want to call them, who are motivated purely by their own paychecks, build up a considerable amount of resentment for face-to-face fundraising of all kinds. Not to mention the organizations these people are representing. Maybe the truth is this type of fundraising is absolutely necessary, that without it, each and every one of us would turn our backs to any problems anywhere in the world and refuse to help until the problem crossed our own country's border. But if that truly is the case, the solution is not to raise funds through profitable companies that use all sorts of manipulative tactics that the organization themselves would probably never do, because they know it would give them a bad name. The organizations who take this sort of fundraising into their own hands, putting their own volunteers and employees out on the street to talk to you, are suddenly being grouped with all of these jackasses who don't know half of a thing about the organization they're representing. They're being associated with these lackluster attempts at getting your bank details. And it's a real shame because face-to-face fundraising really might be the best possible way for these organizations to connect with the public. It's why my first question when I see these guys on the street is always whether or not they work for the organization they're representing. If they do, I'm all ears. I'll gladly listen to what they have to say because I know that they're not in a hurry and their biggest interest is informing people on the organization, but also the problems the organization is trying to solve. And should that interest develop into a donation, they will be incredibly thankful. And if they don't work for the organization, I feel absolutely zero shame as I turn around and walk the other way. Because to them, I'm an easily manipulated, easily tricked person, just waiting to give my money to the first person who can talk me into it. And when I leave, when I turn them down, when I say no, I immediately become worthless. Absolutely worthless in their eyes. I mean nothing to them, because if I can't give them an extra point, well then why the hell would they bother talking to me?